"You want to send me home? Sounds good," posted by Sarasil. So I was a sarcastic and easily annoyed guy in my 20s, and this often didn't help me get along with older or corporate types. I was working at a certain pumpkin-colored big box home improvement store one spring in the flooring department. It was just starting to get warm out, and the store didn't have much AC, so I was looking forward to a magical date where certain employees were allowed to switch their pants for shorts. Problem is that we had a new department manager, I'll call him Dick, who was aggressively chasing a promotion to assistant manager and then store manager. He thought that he could accomplish that by being a super by-the-book hardbutt and being relentlessly metrics focused. This translated into a manager who was a know-it-all micromanaging jerk. Anyway, I'm scheduled to open at 5 a.m. one day, and on the fabled day of cooler bottom wear, and I walk in all light and airy and bare-legged. Dick, who was overnight manager the previous night, saw me and threw a fit. "Why are you out of uniform?" he asked. "Well, I'm not. I can wear shorts starting today," I proclaimed. "Not in your position in your department. Who told you that you could?" he retorted. "The employee handbook and SOP? I can show you if you don't believe me," I offered. "I know the SOP in your department doesn't get to wear shorts. That's only garden. Go home and change right now," he demanded, face getting redder from my defiance. Okay, Dick, if that's how you want to play it, I'll be back in an hour," I sighed. "Maybe the loss of an hour of pay will teach you something." So I know better. The reason I know better is because I'm one of the weirdos who actually read the entire standard operating procedure document, the employee handbook, which is actually just a subsection of the SOP, and I really hate being wrong, so I check the SOP before doing anything different day to day. In my store, the SOP was like invoking God. If the SOP said so, that won every single argument. So I go home, change into pants, but bring my shorts back to work with me. By now, Dick's shift is over, and I asked the new morning manager on duty, Darren, to meet with me. "Why, what's up?" Just an SOP issue." "Oh, okay, give me like 10 minutes. So I swung by my desk and printed out several things. 1. My latest pay stub that included my official job title and department number. 2. The company directory that listed the department names and their associated numbers. 3. The SOP that dealt with when and which departments and employees can wear shorts. And 4. The annual email from the regional VP confirming which departments could wear shorts, starting when, which also included the line, "And this letter is to be posted at the time clock between the dates of XX and Y." 5. The SOP detailing the company transportation and mileage reimbursement policy. And 6. A Google Maps route that mirrored the route that I take to and from work, with the total mileage highlighted. So I meet with Darren, and I explained what happened and handed him each page in turn as they became relevant. At the end, we agreed that I was right on every single account and asked me what I wanted. 1. I want the time. I was turned away before I could clock in, so I want to be paid starting at 5 a.m. Feel free to check the CCTV if you want to confirm when I arrived. I want the mileage because Dick sent me on essentially a company errand with my own vehicle through no fault of my own. 3. I want this letter posted at the clock like it says it's supposed to be. 4. I want you to talk to Dick about this because I told him this was the SOP before he sent me home. And 5. I'm changing back into my shorts. All of this sounds more than fair. Get the paperwork for the clock adjustment and the mileage to me today and I'll sign it. The letter mysteriously went missing from the time clock the next day, but I replaced it every day until I happened to see Dick angrily snatch it off the board and throw it away. I reported that as well, and the letter stopped going missing. He didn't talk to me much, and I was transferred to another department a month later, so all in all, win-win, I think. See, that's a great job, OP, because this person thought that they could rule over you with their power and might, right? But you actually had the book that they didn't actually know as their job, and you just flipped it around in multiple aspects and angles, all right, 6 for 6, and just completely nailed it, got what you want, reimbursed, and boom. That is what you want to see in MC, and that is exactly what OP did. Way to go, man. Too young to do my job? Okay, posted by BPD 2000. Back in my college days in the late 90s, I worked in my college's Alumni Communications Center. In reality, it's a call center where college students worked to ask the low-giving alumni for money. The college had professional folks to handle the big mega donors. I luckily wasn't a student caller, which seemed awful. I, a sophomore, was, and this was the official job title, data entry. A quick sidebar, We also had a couple of call coaches who were seniors who would monitor the callers and give them feedback on how to do a better job at asking alumni for money, typically donations in the $100 to $250 range. When callers made a call, they recorded the outcome of the call on a sheet of paper. I would then collect these sheets and then go to the sole computer in the caller center and record the data. Most of the results I entered would be no answer or left a message on a voice machine. Sometimes we got a donation. So I would enter that caller outcome into the computer, and somewhere else, the alumni department would generate a donation envelope that was mailed to the alumnus, so the alumnus could mail a check back to us. Now, about 10% of the donations would be by credit card. At the end of the night, after the callers left, I would spend about 30 minutes processing the credit cards through this dial-up credit card machine. I did this without issue for 2 months, September and October. Now enters Karen, the new boss lady over the call center. She finally notices the extra 30 minutes on my timesheet each day and asks me about it sometime in late October. I tell her that I process the credit cards after everyone leaves for the night. That's how I was trained by the previous data entry person. This upsets Karen, who says I am far too young to be handling credit card information. Makes it clear that I am to stick to my job of only entering the caller's data. Period. End of story. Data entry only. No handling the money. The money is to be handled only by the grown-ups. To be perfectly clear, these were credit card numbers handwritten on a sheet of paper. Absolutely no cash money involved on my end. So, you got it, condescending Karen. I stopped processing the credit card donations. I set them in a pile at the end of the night right by the credit card machine. And with each passing night, the pile grows and grows. November ends, and this pile is now 250 pages or so thick. It also wasn't my job to ask questions like, who's processing the credit card sheets? Since the month ended and no credit cards were processed, Karen absolutely failed to hit her fundraising goals. She starts to berate the call coaches and the callers for not doing a good enough job. Karen starts spending more time in the call center, watching everything and everyone like a hawk. I continue to do exactly what I was told to do. One day, she would offer a prize, like a college hat, and then the next, a long lecture about how everyone shouldn't be lazy. Over the course of December, I keep adding to the pile of unprocessed credit cards. It's a good 500 pages thick by now. Compared to the massive pile of sheets of no answers and left a message, it's not very noticeable. Naturally, someone in the alumni department has noticed that the donations coming in are down about 25% over November and December. This results in me coming back from Christmas break, where I get to meet Cool Chad, the new boss dude over the call center. He asks if my job includes processing credit cards. I told him that Karen told me not to, but I was trained to process them. In fact, I'm the only one who's been trained how to process them. He says, cool, please do process the credit cards. Cool Chad asks if there are any unprocessed credit card sheets. Oh yeah, there are. Cool Chad then asked me if I could get this done over the next couple of weeks. Oh, sure, no problem. I spent several hours over a couple of Saturdays processing the credit cards. Cool Chad has the absolute best January ever in the history of the call center. The quotes are paraphrasing, it's been over 25 years. Why is Cool Chad Cool Chad? In February, Cool Chad gave me a raise from $8 an hour to $10 an hour. Thanks, Cool Chad. Oh, the old Karen getting half the story. Oh, you shouldn't be processing credit cards. We're having to pay you extra. But that's actually part of my job. It's a different aspect than the call center elements. Oh, no, you don't need to do that. It's not blah, blah, blah. Not important. Well, then Cool Chad steps in and gets everything set right. OP gets a $2 an hour from 8 to 10 raise. That's a pretty substantial percent of 20%. And everything is all right in the world. Karen, why do you do what you do? Not going to give me a meal benefit? I'll eat at the office then. Posted by K. Grunt. Some backstory from a few years back. I was working on healthcare as a HTA nurse, which around here is a nurse which travels around the city area doing health assessments which don't require a 112 call or 911, which is reserved for emergency and paramedics who handle those cases. My job was essentially picking up the jobs, which do not require immediate response, and try to treat the patient either at home or, if not possible, give instruction where they can get treatment for whatever was the ailment at that time. It was a job to assist people so they wouldn't come to the ER with small injuries or illnesses which can be handled in the regular healthcare center next working day. Also, the other part was to go around and treat patients which had had, for example, IV treatments regularly and administer the fluid treatment, the drugs, painkillers, ABs, and so on. My issue was that I noticed that as we drove around the large area from one patient to another, we had to stop for a lunch at some point and that we had to pay lunch from our own pocket, whatever it cost. This is common practice for example paramedics. They eat when they can, and usually at some gas station or so, somewhere where they currently are and have time to eat. I usually read the contracts pretty carefully, which comes from my previous career as an engineer, where I had to make foolproof contracts and avoid stepping on traps. And our healthcare union had negotiated that if your work requires X amount of traveling, you should be entitled for tax-free meal benefit. I wasn't completely sure about it, if that particular statement would apply for the job that I was doing, but I decided to ask stupid questions about it, and eventually forced my supervisor to contact the management to get a statement for the issue at hand. From the management, it went to the legal department, and they began to delve into it, and it lasted for weeks, since they couldn't quite deny it outright, but they eventually came to a conclusion that it couldn't be applied to the job which I had. I was a little annoyed at this, but I decided to not contest it any more than that. But another statement which union had negotiated for us was that if we have an office or a station and a social space where to warm up your meal, so like a microwave, coffee maker, and so on, we are entitled to have a lunch break of 30 minutes per day at the regular office where I leave every morning. Just a normal thing, which, if backed by the law as well around here, lunch is holier than holy if one can say so. I mentioned earlier that our area was rather large, so if I was working on northern parts, for example, it could take some 2 hours driving there, spend 4 hours with patients around that area, and then drive back to the station in an 8-hour shift. So I agreed with the bosses that I drop the issue with the meal benefit and I'll eat at the office instead. And they agreed on this, and I got it in written email that I could do that. So, not every day, but a few times a week when I was assigned to some faraway area, I jumped into the car, drove there, did maybe one patient call, then I had to hurry up back so I can begin my lunch break, then eat for 30 minutes, and drive back to do another patient and drive back. That's an awful lot of driving and wasted time. Eventually, I was confronted about this, and I explained that because I can't afford to eat lunch every day, I just have to eat my own cooking at the office, and that as we don't have the meal benefit, I'm practically forced to drive back and forth so that I can have my prescribed by law lunch break. They were dumbfounded at first, but they could not squirm out of it at all. Problem was that the common practice had been for God knows how long that paramedics and such just went along and paid their own meals, as they never knew better. They had always had the possibility to go back to the station to eat, and I'm quite sure that we all were entitled for that meal benefit, since it is prescribed by law and union agreements in a way that if you can't eat in a regular way at the office, you're entitled for the meal benefit instead. But no one had really contested it earlier. So they were dumbfounded and asked me not to do it in the future, but I responded to that are they going to get the meal benefit running for the department or not? Because if they are not going to do it, I am entitled to eat at the station. The discussion went on a while longer on the subject, but eventually they caved in. They arranged the meal benefit for every nurse and paramedic on the department, as they couldn't find a way out otherwise and couldn't have us driving back and forth and not performing our job. See, this is key right here because this is lunch. Every person needs to eat and have sustenance to go about their day in life. And if they don't have it, they're going to feel bad, they're going to not perform very well, and it's their general health. If you're going to screw with people's lunches, they will get you for it, and then you're going to have to pay more than if you originally got it right in the first place. Way to go, OP. Stinking up HOA Karens rule like this. Click that video on your screen so you don't miss this awesome story, and I'll see you there.